I hope you can all see my screen. Okay, well, great. So you see, this is what we discussed, my dear friends. What is important is like, the entire, how you may continue, no problem. So you can see this, you've got the customer server, you've got a customer service, you've got customer DAO. This is the layered pattern. And this is what you will be taking ahead throughout your career. So please do not think that this is specific to the Servlet API only. It's just that we are using Servlet API here in our application. We are using Servlet API. But then as we proceed further, we will be using the other frameworks, which are much more advanced, which makes your life all the more easier. Those are the things that we will be using. And when we use those things, same pattern will be followed. You will see for yourself that you will be creating controller classes there. You will see for yourself that you will be creating your service classes there. You will see for yourself you will be having a DAO class there as well. And certainly you will have some presentation logic also written there. That's what you will be doing. So let's proceed further now. This is something, and you'll have all taken the poll, right? I believe you'll have all taken the poll, and you'll have also Sir, in edit customer.jsp, after clicking on save button, how does the application know that it needs to come back to the customer servlet and execute the do post method? Correct. It does not execute the do post method. Right? It's a good question. See, let me explain that to you. So you see this, we are in the do post method, and in the do post method, after the saving is done, we are redirecting to the customer servlet. This is how it understands. We are not using a request dispatcher because we don't want to forward the request. See, there are two things here. Now understand this. Thanks for asking that question. It gives me an opportunity to explain to you what is a redirect. What is a redirect? Now, I go back to my Chrome, and if suppose I click on save out here, if I click on save, and if I forward the request, not redirect, if I forward the request to suppose same customer servlet, then in that case, that forwarding happens server side, and the customer servlet will render the data, and which I'm going to get. So that's fine. And let me do that. You see, I'm commenting this, and I will use the request dispatcher. We know how to really use a request dispatcher. Request dispatcher is equal to, I'll say request.get request dispatcher, and then I'll say customer hyphen servlet. So this will forward the request to customer hyphen servlet, and then I'll say dispatcher dot, I'll say forward the request to, using the same request and the same response object, forward the request. So this will also give me as such the same, from the perspective of what I see on the screen, it will be the same. So please take a look. I will restart my application. Please note, I have not used a redirect. I have used a dispatcher in order to forward the request. So I go back here. Okay, I just refresh my code. Okay, here you go. See 103. Now I'll say instead of Mumbai, I'll say Mumbai in brackets India. Okay, so far so good. Sorry. Now can you see? Can you see now? Yes. Good. Sorry about that. So you see here, I've just refreshed, and then you see JPMC Mumbai. Okay, this is what I have. And I will do one thing. Okay. Fine. I'll say S out. I will say do post is executed. This is again a very, very important and a very significant and a critical thing, friends. So please pay attention very carefully. And right at the top out here, I'm writing S out, and I'm writing do get is executed. Yeah. So you see this forward part. Come on, you want me to explain forward part, which I have been using since last year. Last week, request dispatcher is equal to request dispatcher and customer hyphen servlet, and then I forward the request. Come on, what's new? Hey, come on, forwarding the request, right? So after customer.save request.get dispatcher, I'm using the request dispatcher in order to forward the request. The same thing that we have been doing earlier. And what I'm saying is that I'm not using a redirect. Okay, ठीक I am using a request dispatcher and not a redirect. No problem, Anikin. That's fine. You can ask questions, no problem. See, what I'm saying is, I am not using a redirect. I am using a request dispatcher and I'm forwarding the request. See what will be the ill effect of it. And I will explain to you why did I use redirect here and why I did not use a forward dispatcher right in the beginning to start with. I hope you're getting the point that we are discussing. Why a redirect from a do post and why not a forward? I hope you're getting the point we are discussing. All right, and this will also clear your doubt about how does the servlet know that it is supposed to go to the listing page. You're clear on what we are discussing, everyone of you? I had earlier given redirect, send a redirect, but now I have changed it to request dispatcher. And this is what I'm explaining to you is universal, not only with Java, but also with .NET, PHP, or whatever. This is the concept of how the browser works rather than more than how the server side logic works. It's more related to the browser. So see, I have done a forward. Now, when I do a forward, okay, I will once again, okay, I am clearing the, okay, so please see this. I have cleared the console and I am here. I refresh. Okay, I refresh. Again, I refresh. You see this? I'm getting do get is executed. So this is clear. Why is do get getting executed? This is clear. Or I would not give the parameter at all, and I just exploded, and I'm here on the main page. See, do get is executed. I click on customers. You see this? Do get is executed. You can see this. If I refresh, also do get is executed. So it's in the do get. And since there are no parameters at all, it will retrieve all the data. This is clear, right? Please confirm. Please confirm. Right? Good. Very nice. So now when I click on edit, it brings me here, Hyderabad, India. Since there is a parameter, it still goes into the do get only, but with a parameter. And what is the value of that parameter? Customer sublet ID is equal to 101. That is the parameter. ID is equal to 101 is the parameter. So if it was a parameter, it retrieves one single customer object and it forwards the request to what? Come on, forwards the request to which JSP? Which JSP it forwards the request to? Which JSP? If you have gone through the code, you must know to which JSP you are getting. Yes, correct. Edit customer JSP. Very correct. Rakesh, you must be the last person to answer my questions. Let others answer. Getting the point? So you all agree that it goes to edit customer JSP. That's how we show the form. And now I'll remove India, and instead I write Bharat. Okay, this is what I'm doing. Now I click on save. What have I given? So what will execute when I click on save? Do get or do post? Come on, I'm clearing the output. What will execute? Do get or do post? Do get will execute or the do post will execute? Action is equal to post. So post will execute, do post will execute. All agree? All agree? Very nice. Very nice. So do post will get executed. Superb. So when do post gets executed, after saving the data, I am using a forward. I am using a forward. And I click on save. Right after saving is done. What's wrong? Oh. See what is happening here. See what is happening here. It's gone in a loop. It's gone in a loop. You can see that. And it has gone into a recursion. You can see this here. It has gone into a recursion. So it automatically, terminated the request. Why? Because I forwarded the request to servlet, servlet request dispatcher, and it sent the request to do post again and again, and from there again do post, and again from there again do post, and so on. Isn't it? That was a problem. That was a problem. And it did keep the same method as it is. So that is the reason why I don't want to execute a forward request. You see the problem there? And in the earlier versions, it would have gone successfully to do get, but then if if you refresh, it will once again send the request to the do post. So what happens here is that do post when you forward the request, it's the server side forward, and then again comes back onto the same request comes back, the same request comes back, and the same, and that's the problem. What would redirect do? The redirect will do as good as the user has explicitly typed in customer servlet on the browser. That's what happens. And then if it is going through the browser, it's like server telling the browser you send this request. You got what it means by send redirect? Send redirect means your server telling the browser you send a request, and what that request is supposed to be customer service. Is that very clear? And if that is how it is, and if the browser is sending this customer servlet as a request, then needless to say, it's going to go to the do get because there is no form over there. There is no action there at all. Is that clear? Right now, when I run this, you see, I do not result. It doesn't result into that recursion. It doesn't result into that loop or something. Right? Same function being called again and again. It doesn't happen. And then I go back here again. Now see, I'll see keep this as Bharat. I refresh this page, and you see I'm keeping it Bharat, and I say save. As you can see now, it has become Bharat, and I'm back here. As you can see, customer servlet here. You see, customer servlet. You got that? It's like, the server telling the browser you send a new request. I repeat, the server telling the browser you send a new request. And what that request is? Customer servlet. You got that, friends? Any doubts, any questions on this? So hence, you must send a, you see this now, after do post is executed, do get is executed. Once again, I'll show you. See, I again say edit, instead of Bharat now, I'll make it India again, and I say save this time, and you see this, it changes. So see this now, first it was do get when I reach to the edit GSP, and then do post when I click on save, and then again a do get because of a redirect. Alright, so from the do post method, always do a redirect. Even if you've understood 10, 15% or 20% of it, that's fine. Just remember, from a post, you better do a redirect. Put this in your mind. From post, you better do a redirect. Right? From post, you better do a redirect. Is that very clear? Right? And if there is a customer servlet request going from the browser, from the URL, that's going to execute do get only, right? Because there is no action over there. For post to happen, you must have a form with action is equal to post, or at least send a request with method is equal to post. And by default, whenever you send a request from the browser URL from here, if I hit the enter key here, it's never a post, it's always a get. That's how HTTP works. That's how browser works, rather, I would say. Right? That's how browser works. So I hope this answers the question. Who had answered the question? I mean, who had raised that question on how does the servlet understand that it is supposed to go back to this page? It was, yeah. It was Rakesh, sir. It is a clicking save button. How does the application know that it needs to come back to the customer service? Yes, Rakesh. So I hope you got it, how it works, right? Very nice, very nice, right? Very nice. So see, this is how it works, and you'll have, I believe, you'll have all taken the pull as well, and I'm sure that you have, once again, I'm pushing the code to the server, to Bitbucket, and I'm sure you all know. You have taken the pull and you know how things really work. Over and above that, I have also put draw.io over here, which explains. I will definitely share this towards the end of the day, so you know how things really work, right? Fine. Okay. Okay. Now let's move on. So we have covered a lot of servlet. We have covered a lot of JDBC. So we have covered a lot of JDBC code, my dear friends. We have covered a lot of JDBC code. Correct? A lot of JDBC code. Now we are supposed to start with Spring and use the same JDBC code in Spring. Right? In Spring. We will create a Spring based application. Correct? That's what we are going to do. And we will use a Spring JDBC. Right? Spring is a container. Now, what is Spring? First of all, you need to understand what Spring is instead of getting into JDBC with Spring, or instead of going ahead with Hibernate with Spring, or instead of going ahead with Spring JP and Spring Data with Spring. First of all, you understand what Spring is. Okay. So I'll close this. All set, friends. All set. What's the time? We have 12. It's 12:41. It's 12:41. So for how many of y'all Spring is new? Please. For how many of y'all Spring is new? And we're getting started with Spring. So don't worry about Spring Boot. I'm not talking about Spring Boot to start with. I'm talking about Spring. So it was around, if I'm not mistaken, it was around 2006 when Spring started. Even before that, it was 2001, 2002, especially 2002 when Java 2 Enterprise Edition came in. And they provided Servlet API and then many, many other APIs that helped us to build a real, uh, you know, enterprise class application. And then when we built enterprise class application, there were many things that were needed. Many things that were needed. So what was needed was, access to the database. So we needed JDBC. So they provided JDBC API, right? It was there since 1.0, but that's fine. And then they provided JAAS, Java Authentication and Authorization API. They provided something called JMS and Java Messaging API, right? And loads of other services as well. Now, when it comes to JDBC as well, there are various different ways of working with the database. And how do you manage transactions? Management is one big thing in JDBC. Okay, so what we're going to do is that I'll just give you an overview of Spring and then we need to go back to transaction management. I will talk about transaction management and I will demonstrate transaction management before we move on to actual hands-on with Spring. Okay, so you see JDBC, JS, JMS, and then with JDBC, you needed transaction management as well. So you needed an API for transaction management, right? All of these services and features were needed. So they provided all of these features in Enterprise Edition. I repeat, they provided all of these features in 2002 Java Enterprise Edition. Perhaps many of you, maybe you all were there in school, in 2002, isn't it? How many years? 20 years almost, right? So they provided all of these, all of these things, right? And they provided application servers. Note this point. They provided application servers. So the first one that we worked with, we were working with was Sun Application Server. This was from Sun Microsystems, which is now the company of Oracle. It's Oracle, company. So Sun Microsystems had something called Sun Application Server. Then they also came up, IBM. This was Sun Microsystems. IBM came up with WebSphere Application Server. Then you had BEA WebLogic. That was a time when BEA was also the company of, or BEA was a company all by itself, like Sun Microsystem was, but BEA was also purchased by Oracle, and they had something like WebLogic Application Server. So now these days, if you see WebLogic Application Server, it's a product of Oracle. Why? Because BEA was purchased by IBM, was not purchased by Oracle. IBM is too huge, I believe, to be purchased by Oracle. So WebSphere was from IBM. We used to call it IBM WebSphere, right? And these days it's Oracle WebLogic Application Server, otherwise it was BEA. This was from Sun Microsystems, and Sun Microsystems was purchased by Oracle. So you have got Oracle Application Server, you've got WebLogic Application Server belong to Oracle. IBM has got its own server, and then Pramati Application Server, as I had told you last week also. Pramati Application Server were developed by XP provides for people who had started that company in Hyderabad, and they built a very fantastic application server. There were many other. Then came in Glass version. Then yes, there was one open source and free application server called JBoss Application Server, right? JBoss Application Server, right? Application server was there. Perfect. All of this. Let me arrange this. Correct. All of these application servers were there, which used to provide all of these features, which used to provide, JDBC, transaction management, and so on. All of these servers used to provide. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm going to put this nicely into a box, right? I will send this to back. So these are all different application servers. I'll call them as J2EE during those days. Now also these applications are there. I'll call them as JEE application servers. Okay. So all of these features especially JDBC related feature, authentication, messaging service, transaction management. All of these features were provided by these application servers in there. They were inherently available in the application server. They were inherently available. All of these APIs were there, right? All of these things were there, right? They were all there. But there was a problem with it. They were the burden, they were a burden as far as the performance is concerned. They were very, very heavy application servers. And the moment you start the application server, all the implementation of each one of these were out of the box available. So it was very heavy to start with, not only to start with, but also during the runtime environment. At the time of running the application server, and of course, needless to say, very important. How can I forget that? They also have each one of these application servers, they have the implementation of Servlet API as well. Implementation of Servlet API. So all of these are the APIs, and these application servers, they provide the implementation of the APIs, the ones that I have listed over here. And they had the entire architecture revolving around, three types of enterprise Java beans, EJBs. We used to call them EJBs, enterprise Java beans. And those were of three types: session beans, then you had something like entity beans. There were nothing but classes to which these servers used to provide services. And then you also have message driven beans. Message driven beans. All of these were the different types of components that we used to create in our application. And all the services of transaction management, of the Servlet API, well, these were not related to Servlet API as such, but then JDBC transaction management, authorization, messaging, all of these services were provided to these beans by these application servers. All our business logic we used to write over here. You remember the entity class, customer entity class that we created? Entity customer class that we created, right? So these were business service classes. Now you know what are business service classes, my dear friends. Okay, business service classes. अभी जो ना फोन करो शबीर भाई को तो वो लेके आ जाएंगे खाना मेरे लिए, जब वो 12 बजे खाना ला के रख देते तो नो प्रॉब्लम, और आपको वो लेके जाएंगे. हाँ, इफ यू वांट टू गो जस्ट फील फ्री टू कॉल हिम. यू गुड. हाँ, यू कैन कीप इट ऑन दैट्स, ये वाला है ना, वो स्पेशली उसी के लिए है, वो खराब है वो कुर्सी. हाँ, इसके ऊपर रख दो, चलेगा. हाँ, वो रहेगा. नो, आई पुट इट बैक, नो प्रॉब्लम. I have a gym in my office, small gym, with a treadmill and stuff. And my father has come here to do some workout. Okay. Okay, right. So these were kind of business service classes, not business server. They were business service classes. Entity beans represents the model classes. They represented model classes. Okay. And then you have message driven beans. This was with related to messaging. So forget about that. We did not talk about it beyond the scope. Okay, message driven beans. Now they were very, very expensive in terms of performance. And when this had come, during this 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, I remember, in 2003, I was in Saudi and doing an assignment for Saudi Airlines. There it was WebSphere. They were a complete IBM shop, and they had WebSphere application server. And then we had done the architectural, POCs for them using WebSphere application server. But they could afford those heavy servers and stuff and all. But otherwise, they were very expensive in terms of performance. So there was a time in 2006. Hope I'm right on the year. In 2006, an architect, a super architect, I will call him, Rod Johnson. Rod Johnson. He came up with an idea. He said, "Why not build a framework? Why not build a framework? Not an API, not an API, a framework. Why not build a framework which set of classes?" Now, when I say set of classes, there are hundreds and thousands of them, depending on what all modules you use. With some set of classes that will provide the generic behavior that these application servers are providing. What these application servers used to provide, they used to provide transaction management related services to the session beans. They used to provide ORM related services to the entity beans. Now you would wonder, what is this transaction? I will explain. What is a transaction? See, we have written our code in customer service, isn't it? And customer service here. Here, this is a simple application wherein I'm just simply inserting the data in customer object. In customer table. Don't you think in real life application, I may end up inserting data in multiple rows? Come on, yes or no? Not just simply I'm talking about not just multiple rows, but multiple tables in the database. Yes or no? It's quite possible that I have customer as well as customer addresses, two different tables. So I must insert data in customer as well as the customer address. Possible. And then in that case, and I'm sure if you all have taken database class, then in that case, you must be clear on transactions. You all are clear on transactions, what transaction means, friends? Are you clear on what transaction means? Hello, friends? Transactions. So if I have three, very good. If I have, very nice, excellent. So if I have inserted data in 4 or 5 tables, and if I have updated 1 or 2 tables, either everything must be committed or everything must be rolled back. Correct? Everything must be committed or everything must be rolled back. Now, how do I do that? I will have to, now if I'm not using an enterprise application server like WebLogic and WebSphere and stuff, then in that case, I will have to get the connection object I will have to get the connection object here itself in this save customer. And then I will have to start a transaction, and then I will have to, either commit a transition or else I will have to roll that transition. I will have to write all of that code. Listen to me. I will have to write all of that code in this plain simple Servlet API. But if I use WebSphere application server, if I use JBoss application server, if I use Sun1 application server, if I use IBM WebSphere, or WebLogic for that matter, it will automatically manage transactions for me. The moment a thread enters a function in a session bean, it will start a transaction. If I throw an exception from here, it will automatically roll back a transaction. If no exception is thrown, and if that session bean method is successfully executed, it will automatically commit the transaction. In such a case, we used to call it as, and which was a big deal for us. Come on, big deal for us. It was called container managed transactions. Please repeat. Container managed transactions was provided by the enterprise application server to my beans. When I say beans, they are just simply classes, but of course with some lot of, you're getting the point. Container managed transactions. Then ORM, object relational mapping tool. So if you see this now, see the amount of code that I'm writing over here in customer DAO. See the amount of code that I'm writing. All of this code I don't need to write it all. It will automatically in one shot give me all the data that I need in the customer customer object, and that customer object will be put into the array list depending on the kind of function that I fired on the ORM. This also I have written these many lines of code. I will not have to do that at all. So these services were provided by these kind of services were provided. So in 2000, but they were very heavy as far as the performance is concerned. That was really very bad. So Rod Johnson, chief architect of Spring, he came up with an idea. He said, do not worry about these expensive, and they are very expensive. JBoss application server was free. This was free. Yes, this was free. But then again, this is free, but then the support that you take from JBoss or Red Hat owns this now today. But if you take support, it's going to be expensive. And managing these application servers were expensive. Installing them, you need good hardware and good amount of memory to install them. Then you needed, you needed not only in terms of memory, but also the performance. So as I said, yes, you need good amount of memory so that it performs well. Otherwise, the performance was not good. You couldn't really install them on commodity servers. Commodity servers is like the server that you get on AWS and stuff, easy to install. So on the last day, we're going to do DevOps also, right? We're going to do DevOps also. It's very interesting. So you see, Rod Johnson said, why not have a simple servlet-based container which Tomcat provides, not my words. A simple servlet-based container that Tomcat provides. So you will have a Tomcat application server, right? A Tomcat, not so-called application server, but then Tomcat server, Tomcat server, which has just one single thing, Servlet API implementation. It has the implementation of Servlet API. It does not have implementation of Jazz. It does not have, though you can connect with Jazz and stuff and all, there is a module available. It does not have anything with respect to JMS install. So it says, let me, Rod Johnson said, let us come up with a framework. So they created a framework. They called it a Spring framework, and they made it completely modular. They made that framework completely modular. What do you mean by completely modular? So on top of Tomcat application server, the application that you build will be Spring-based application, will be a Spring-based application, and that Spring-based application, so this is my Tomcat server, right? This is my Tomcat server. And my Spring-based application would be a Servlet API based application, but it will have, the framework provides modules. What modules? It will provide modules for ORM. It will provide modules for JDBC, plain JDBC. You don't want to use ORM? Fine, no problem. It will provide you with JDBC module. It will provide you with the module of messaging, JMS, messaging, right? And then it will provide you with the modules of auditing and logging, okay, and so many other things. And then it used to also provide AOP module, which we will talk about later. It's too early to talk about it. We'll talk about that later. Okay, AOP, aspect oriented programming. They provided modules and many other modules, many other modules. I don't know whether I can say hundreds, but yes, many modules. There are so many modules that I have not worked on, many modules that I have not worked on. So they provided many modules, right, in that Spring framework. Now, what happens with the Spring framework is that it provides you with the ability to wire up the services dynamically. I repeat, it provides you with the ability to wire up all of these services that I talked about dynamically with configuration. And from Java 1.5 onwards, it started supporting not just simply, not just simply, configuration, XML based configuration, but also annotation based configuration. So with just simple plain annotations, the framework understands that, okay, this is the class which needs transaction management. And this is the method in the class which needs transaction management. This is the method, that is supposed to work as a RESTful API. This is the method that is supposed to, or this is the module, or this is the class that is supposed to act as an entity class. Right. So with the help of just plain annotation or some configuration, it understands the kind of services it is supposed to provide to the classes in my application. So they created a framework. So Spring is not an API, Spring is a framework. You remember JDBC, I said it's an API, but here it's a framework. And different people provide different implementations of JDBC API. MySQL provides the implementation of JDBC. You have got Oracle and other databases provides the implementation. They provide the implementation. But here in this case, you don't have several people providing the implementation of Spring. It doesn't make sense. That statement is weird. So this Spring framework, the Spring is a framework all by itself, Spring framework. He built a Spring framework. And today, it has been so many years now, right? What, all right, almost. So it started in 2006, so 4, 10, 12, and now what, 16 years almost, 15, 16 years, isn't it? 15, 16 years. This framework is around in the market, and every second application that is developed in Java for web is developed using Spring framework. There are huge benefits of it, and you will spend your rest of your career, I believe, if you still stay with Java, a large part of your career will be working with Spring. And it's pretty simple. It makes your life really easy. Correct. For example, transaction management and JDBC related and ORM related features, all of these features are there. Moreover, what it provides is dependency injection. I repeat, what it provides is dependency injection. What's the time? Okay, we have time. What it provides is dependency injection. So what did I say? What is the framework? What is one of the one of the most critical feature that it provides is what? Dependency injection. Okay, this is the feature that it provides. So I select this. Yes, dependency injection. Correct. This is what it provides. Very important feature, and at the heart of it. At the heart of it. Correct. At the heart of it. Super. This feature is at the heart of it. So all the other modules provide the services based on whether you need those services or not. You can include those modules or you may not include those modules. But this is one module that is definitely there, which is the core part of your Spring, and that is called Spring Core. This is called Spring Core. Right? Spring Core. This is what it is. This is how it is. Spring Core. Spring Core is always there. If you are using Spring, Spring Core is certainly there. Right? Spring Core is definitely there. It's there for sure. Spring Core is there. Right? So Spring, this dependency injection is the part of Spring Core. It is a part of Spring Core. It's there. So if you are using Spring Framework and you say, I'm not using dependency injection, it's a weird statement. But if you say, I'm not using messaging, fine. You're using Spring Framework and not using that module Spring Messaging. You are using Spring Framework and you are not using ORM perhaps, and you're not using AOP perhaps, that's fine. I may write a Spring integration based application, so there is yet another module for integration. If time permits, I'll talk about what integration actually means. Integration, isn't it? So, fine. I mean, it's okay if you're not using integration, or if you're using everything, nothing else and only integration, fine. But then you are using certainly what? Dependency injection, which is the part of Spring Core. Now, what is dependency injection? You remember I did make that statement that the client classes must be dependent on the abstraction and not on the implementation. You remember that? Please confirm. Do you remember? Client classes must be dependent on abstraction, not on implementation. Right? Okay. See, though this application is not working on with most of y'all on your machine, I did continue with this application because this sets the stage for you to understand enterprise application. This helps me to set it sets the stage for you to use something like Spring Framework. So take a look at this here. My servlet is dependent on, take a look. My servlet is dependent on which class? My servlet is dependent on which class? Service class. And is it a class or an interface? Is it a class or an interface? What we have created is a class or an interface. No, no, no. It's a class, right? We didn't create. You see this. Everything that we have created here is a class. Can you see this? It's a class. It's a class. Yes. It's a class. Tomorrow, if I decide to change the implementation, if I want to change the implementation, or if I want to replace the implementation runtime from save customer to something else, then in that case, I will have to make changes to customer servlet, and I will have to, instead of instantiating customer service, I will have to instantiate some other class. Am I right? And not only in this servlet, I may have used the service in many other servlets. In each one of those servlets, wherever I was using customer service as a class, I will have to change the implementation. Why? Because I have written code in such a way that my class, my customer servlet, which is the client class, is dependent on the implementation directly. Whereas it should be dependent, it must be dependent on abstraction, not on the implementation. And if I want to do this, no big deal, no big deal, no big deal, simple enough. What am I going to do? First of all, let me change the name of this class from customer service to customer service IMPL. That's the naming convention I follow. Many follow. If you do want to follow this some other naming convention, it's fine. But usually this is how it is. So what is this? This is an implementation class. What I'm going to do next, I've changed the name. I have changed the name of the class. It is customer service IMPL. I will declare an interface here. I will declare an interface. You can see this, and I'll select interface here, and then here I'll give customer service. Oopsie, so sorry, I was fast on that. I will say customer service, right? So I have customer service as an interface. And what are the functions declared here? How many functions do I have? Get customer, save customer. These are the three functions, isn't it? Isn't it? I will declare these functions here. I'll say public list of customer, and I'll say get customers, correct? This is what I'm going to do. Oopsie, sorry about that. Yeah, import class, right? And then I'll say import class, perfect, correct? And then I will have another public. I'll say customer, get customer, all of those same functions I'm writing here. I'm just declaring, of course, this is an interface. I'll just declare, I'll say public, and I will say void save customer. Friends, please take a look. And I'm going to go back to service IMPL and I will implement, I'll say implements, I'll say customer service. So far, so good. Do you have any issues here? Public class customer service, and why is this? I must either declare or get customer. Okay, so the spelling is wrong. Get customer, public customer, get customers, list of customers. Okay, everything is just correct. Customer, get customer, save customer, customers. Okay, okay. I must write here throws SQL SQL exception, right? Throws SQL exception, right? Throws SQL exception. Perfect. All right. So why is this giving me an error now? बस either get customer क्या problem है get customer में customer tell me what is the problem int id right I did not pass that id as a parameter at all isn't it here you go now things are good save customer yes so sorry friends I'm hasting on this I must pass the customer object as a parameter isn't it now everything is cool. So I have just declared these functions here and customer service IMPL has implemented all of these functions. See, customer service IMPL implements customer service. Any problems in this? Any doubts, any questions here? Simple. What have I done? I am declaring an interface and I implement and the class implements that interface and on the face of that interface everything is declared. Now what do? I go to customer service. Tell me one thing friends, this particular final customer service IMPL should be customer service IMPL or customer service? Come on friends, customer service IMPL or customer service? Come on. It must be customer service. So this class is dependent on the abstraction, not on the implementation. Yes, correct. Still there is a problem. Still, there is a problem. You can see this customer service IMPL. Here, I am hard coding the implementation here. Again, the same thing, my dear friends. Tomorrow, if I have to make changes to the implementation, when I say changes to the implementation means what? I have one implementation, I have another implementation tomorrow. Suppose if I have something like this, right? And I say customer service, I'll say export customer service IMPL. Take a look, export customer service IMPL, which implements the same interface, but the way I save the customer, the way I get the customer maybe is different. The way I save the customer is different, perhaps. So here I have no choice, I mean, I have already hard coded new customer service IMPL. So what will I do? Okay, I hope I'm not going fast because if you miss this, it will be a failure as on part, I mean, on our part as a team. We are a team, right? I am supposed to explain and you're supposed to understand, so shouldn't be failing. Is this clear? Do you have any questions, any doubts? We have customer service as an interface. We have customer service IMPL that implements that interface. We have customer servlet, which is now dependent on the customer service, but still we have new customer service IMPL here. So tomorrow, if I have to change this to export customer service IMPL, I will have to come back and make changes in not only this servlet, but all the servlets wherever I used a new customer service IMPL. Walaikum salam. Tell me, yes or no? Should be. Right? Isn't it? I will have to make changes everywhere. नहीं आप कुछ बोल रहे right? I will have to make changes everywhere in each and every servlet wherever I have used customer servlet. I mean, sorry, new customer service IMPL. I will have to make changes there, which is bad, isn't it? Which is bad. Out of all the design patterns that you have learned, thank you so much. Out of all the design patterns that you have learned, friends, give me the name of the very first design pattern that you have learned. Give me the name of the very first design pattern that you have learned. Hey, that was the first one that you learned? Well, nothing wrong in learning that as the first design pattern, but in creational patterns, which is the very first pattern in creational patterns? Yes, yes, the factory pattern, correct. Not the layered, Rakesh. I'm talking about gang of four design patterns, those 23 design patterns that you all learned. अरे शबीर भाई कुछ रह गया ऊपर जरा ऊपर आओ ना जल्दी प्लीज ऊपर आओ हाँ ऊपर आओ okay factory pattern, yes, the factory pattern, isn't it? So whenever you cannot anticipate which object of which class must be created runtime, whenever you are unable to anticipate object of which class must be created runtime, then in that case you use a factory. So I will do what over here, I am going to create a factory here. I'll say, okay, well, in the services itself, I will create a factory. I'll give a name of the class, and the name of my class would be ये दोनों ले जाओ, ये दोनों हाँ जी जी ये दोनों ले जाओ, और ये है ताइबा का, लेकिन अभी आप पाम्स ही ले जाओ और वो धो वो के रख देना बोला बाद में आप दोनों 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 ताइबा ही ले अरे पाम्स ले जाओ दिलवा ओके है ना. Okay, so coming back over here, friends, I'm going to create something called what? Customer service factory. Okay, so customer service factory. Now this is a factory class. This is a factory class, and usually you will find in factory classes methods like this: public static, right? And I'll say customer service. I'm going to return back customer service. I'll say get instance. What will I write? Get instance. Or no, it's okay. I can write create. I can say create customer service. Okay, create customer service. And here when I say create customer service, I'm hard coding here. Otherwise, in real life, it can be based on logic or whatever. I'm keeping it simple. I'll say return new customer service IMPL. Can you see this? Customer service IML. So I have created a factory class. Now what I do is I go back to the customer servlet, and here instead of saying this, I'll say customer service factory dot, I'll say create customer service. Now take a look at this code. Now whenever in my entire application, whenever I need customer service, this is how I'm going to get the customer service. So tomorrow, if I have to make changes to the implementation, if I want to replace the implementation from customer service IMPL to export customer service IMPL, tell me which is that one single place where I will be making changes in my application. Which class? Which class? Tell me. Yes, excellent, excellent. I will be making changes to the factory. Yes, very good. Customer factory class, exactly. Customer factory class. True, exactly. Correct? That's how it is. Sorry about that. I'm hungry. What's the time? I'm sure you guys are too. Give me 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes. I'm going to commit this code in the meanwhile. You all can take the pull later. You all can take the pull later. Don't get distracted at all. Don't get distracted at all. Okay, take the pull later. See this now. So, so I have created a factory here. I have few questions to you all. So this is good. Huh? Now this application, please do keep this application with you for next 6 months. For next 6 months, you're going to learn from this application the very fundamentals of design pattern, the very fundamentals of layered pattern, the very fundamentals of how to structure your application, a typical web-based application. Okay, keep this with you all. Now I have a question to you all. To you all, I have a question. The question is, the question is, do you think customer service will be the only service in this entire application, or in real life application there will be many services? What do you think? Only one service? Many services. Great, super. I'm very happy with the with quick answers. I'm very happy. Now, another question is, for each service, don't you think you will end up creating a factory like this? For each one of these services, you will end up creating a factory, customer factory and supplier factory and this factory and that factory. Maintaining that factories, those factories will become a nightmare. Maintaining those factories will become a nightmare. Difficult, isn't it? Difficult. This is where this gentleman comes to our rescue. Rod Johnson. He says, I'm going to build a framework. I'm going to build a framework. I'm going to build a framework which will have a bean factory. Type karo. Every one of you, till the time you don't type this, I'm not going to proceed further. I'm not going to let you all go for lunch. Type karo. He created bean factory in his framework. Type karo. Yes, superb. Thank you so much for being such fantastic participants, my dear friends. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. To the bottoms of my heart, I appreciate it. Great, superb. So he created something called a bean factory, among many other classes as well. He designed a bean factory. And that factory is the framework and at the heart of it, at the core of it. And there are different, he designed it beautifully. When I say beautifully, not in the look and feel way, but then, some super class and then subclasses, a specific type of factory stuff and all. He created those factory classes. So I don't have to keep on writing factories. I just have to tell in the framework somehow to the framework, I've got to say, this is my business service class. This is my DAO class. This is my so and so component. This is my so and so service class, right? It is the responsibility. Now, how do I tell my Spring Framework? Either through XML configuration or through annotations. I repeat, either through XML configuration or through annotation. XML configuration is old school, gone, out. Forget about that. Okay, but what is the latest and what is, latest in the sense that it's always, it's already latest since 10 years, in fact. So since Java 1.5, it is all annotation based. Yes, annotation. So I just simply need to annotate a class. It understands that this is supposed to be a service class. Who is going to create an object of that class? I'm saying he provides a bean factory. Who is going to create an object of this service IMPL? Come on. Who is going to create an object of this class? Right now, see the statement that I'm writing over here. I'll say, if this was the part, if this class was a service class, right? See what I'm writing was if this class was well, this is already a service class, but that if this class was the part of Spring Framework, okay, then I would have just annotated this class as with annotated this class with @service. @service. Spring would have would have automatically created an instance of it. Automatically create an instance of it. And now see the beauty here. So instance to ban jayega. Instance will be there. How will it know that this servlet class is supposed to have the reference to it? I will not write any factory because now factory is not mine. Spring Bean factory is provided by whom? Who provides the Bean factory? Who provides the bean factory? Spring Framework provides the bean factory, my dear friends. Come on, all with me? Just give me 5 minutes more, 5 minutes more. So, how will it understand that the implementation of this class, which it will create an instance of, it is the Spring Framework which will create an instance of it. Correct. The Spring Framework will create an instance of it. How will it understands that it is supposed to inject the dependency here? It is supposed to point this customer service reference variable to the object of that customer service IMPL class. I will repeat this 2 more times. How will the Spring Framework know that this customer service reference variable is supposed to point to the object of this customer service IMPL class? How will it know? One more time. How will it know that Spring Framework? How will the Spring Framework know that this customer service reference variable is supposed to point to the object of that customer service IMPL, which it will instantiate automatically? It says, don't worry, my dear friend Shakir. You just tell me. Of course, this is not Spring, so @ yes, again an annotation @auto wired. Khalas, it understands. Yes, @auto wired. It understands. Oh, customer services of what type? Customer service. There is an object in the container. Well, I'll come to the container, but there is an object that I have created. Spring Framework says. Spring says, I have created an object which implements customer service, and this guy, customer servlet, needs the reference of it. Auto wire, it will automatically inject the dependency. This is what dependency injection is. You got that, friends? This is what dependency injection is. We are going to proceed further with this. We're going to talk a lot about this. This is what you need to learn, right? This is what you need to learn. So don't forget, I must write it. If this was the part of Spring Framework, of course, I cannot use this here because Spring Framework is not there in the libraries of Spring Framework is not there in the part. If this was a Spring Framework, I would have said auto wide. Ab dekho, it's completely loosely coupled. Come on, friends. Well, loose couple is not the right statement. It's not loose coupling. It's like, your abstraction, your customer servlet is dependent on the abstraction, not on the implementation. Well, this is not going to work actually here. So I better make it is equal to new customer servlet. I mean, the customer service IMPL, or else at least I use customer service factory dot. Okay, I'll do this at least. I mean, otherwise it won't work, right? Because this is not Spring Framework and auto-wired stuff and all will not work. So let me now comment this factory introduced, right? So I hope you have got, do you all have any questions on what is dependency injection? Any questions on what is dependency injection? You got it? It automatically creates objects of some classes, some implementation classes, and it will inject the dependency wherever needed with the help of auto-wired. And this is at the heart of it. You will be using this. And even if there are people out there, who think that, okay, you have understood just 30% of it, 40% of it, no problem. It will be like next to breathing for you. If you are using Spring Framework, it is, I mean, you have no choice but to use @service, @component, @auto wire. These are the basic things that you will be using and seeing things in action. I'm not feeling well today so much. Okay, clear? Any doubts, any questions? Any doubts, any questions? Any doubts, any questions, friends? Cool. Can we take a lunch break here? Can we take a lunch break? Good, cool, nice. We're going to come back and continue with this. Don't worry. We're going to come back and continue with this. Ask whatever questions you have. My responsibility, my duty to answer all of those questions. Right, friends? Bye. Take care. Have a fantastic lunch. And what's the time? 1:28. We're going to come back at 2:30. 2:30. We're going to resume back at. We will resume back at 2:30 p.m. Thank you. Bye bye. Take care.